We've been speculating about what Azeroth really is for ages and what the Titan goal is, but Blizzard just decided to drop the info to us outright in a new quest that you can play through in the War Within. This expansion changed everything, and if you still think the Titans could really be the good guys that are just misunderstood, I would reconsider it. Not only are we attacked by one of their constructs meant to keep their servants in order, but we've learned that their goal was to find a Prime World Soul and to convert it. Now the Titans are the masters of gaslighting you and sugarcoating things, so they would say they just want to nurture a new Titan, but what they're essentially doing is converting this neutral energy into order, and we're all a part of this experiment. Just how the Black Empire once ruled Azeroth, the Titans also did the same thing, and we've been living under it all these years. However, now all of that is crashing down, and as Chris Metzen said, we're finally going to discover this vast Titan conspiracy and what has really been going on Azeroth. So, what is all this new information? If you guys want to buy Total War, Elder Scrolls, or any other game, you can get them at great prices with my Gamivo link. You can also get anything Warcraft related, gift cards and software, and all below market prices. Best of all, if you add my code DORON, you can get an even bigger discount, so make sure to check out my link in the description and get some amazing deals with Gamivo. So if you've been following the lore for a while now, you might have noticed that we've been talking about Azeroth not being a Titan for quite a while now, but almost always these were just hints or speculations or certain perspectives that were just overall vague. Realistically, we've known that the original Chronicle lore has been BS for quite a few years now, and that the entire ordeal that Azeroth is a Titan, an asset one that they're trying to nurture and awaken, has really been debunked for ages now. We've been talking about how Sargeras might not have been so different, how he might not have really gone crazy as we had previously believed, and we've also been talking about that still super relevant theory that Azeroth is inside of a giant Titan prison that we will see in the last Titan in the World Soul Saga. Furthermore, we found some really suspicious documents of the Titans not exactly being the nicest of guys, and Iridikron told us that once they come to Azeroth, we're going to see their true face and how little they care for us. However, the War Within release changed everything, and no longer are we just speculating, we got some things happening outright that you can see with your own eyes. For example, some of the Earthen that have been following the Titan edicts since forever had to essentially abandon some of them due to necessity, and then we learned that the Titans had planted a gigantic construct in the water that was supposed to annihilate them if that ever happens. Previous documents said that the lead Titan Keeper Odin didn't like that the Titan Forge were getting free will and that they're becoming more sentient and they aren't just mindless drones anymore. We've also learned they had waged war on some branch of the Titan Forge that had holed up in a place called Evaloran, and these guys have managed to successfully split away. However, just this fact that the Titans essentially planted a giant construct in case their followers started getting free will and started getting ideas, but really, it tells you everything you need to know about how they really see their servants and how in their eyes they're literally just mindless tools. Now, taking this into account, you can imagine that they view us in much the same manner as most of the playable races were Titan servants originally. It also seems like life collaborated with the Titans, so really, we might all be a part of this giant experiment that we had no idea about. We did in a way see the Titans back at Legion, but in that time our goals aligned with them, so they appeared a little bit more benevolent, but again, none of this is really a retcon, it's just that Blizzard is now really pushing this angle hard. Our first real interaction with the legacy of the Titans on Azeroth was back in Vrat and in Ulduar, where we had discovered the main facility. There, we learned that these crazy guys have literally wired up the entire planet with an explosion mechanism that would blow everything up in case the old gods managed to break free and essentially do what Zeldan is doing right now. Once again, it shows you their true nature and how little they care for us. However, now in the actual expansion, we have brand new information where this is stated outright. So, first of all, Azeroth is elemental in nature based on the Dragonflight hints, and the most recent Chronicle book that was released a few months back, it essentially confirmed that Azeroth is a neutral power source. It can turn into a void monstrosity, but it can also turn into a Titan as well. Now, they actually double down on this in the game itself, and we get this new quest where you activate a Titan machine and you get a vision of what originally happened to Azeroth, and if you ever needed more confirmation what they they have in store, well, look no further. So this new quest tells us that in order to craft order out of the inherent chaos of the cosmos, the Titans began searching for the so-called Prime World Soul, aka the most powerful world soul in existence, and essentially to convert it into a Titan. They discovered Azeroth, and this was the original goal. Now, this little bit of info, while it might not seem like anything we didn't really know, is in fact a huge confirmation. Azeroth is not a Titan 100%, and them saying that they're trying to nurture it into a Titan is essentially just a sugar-coated way of saying that they're trying to convert this neutral energy into their own, which, when you think about it, is pretty much the exact same thing that the Void is doing right now. Void is trying to convert the neutral Prime World Soul into their own as well. The difference was that the Black Empire originally succeeded and reigned over Azeroth for a while, and as we've just learned, so did the Titans. The Titans brought down the Black Empire, but they didn't really save us. They just established their own empire that we've been living in from that point until the next few years, where everything is going to come crashing down. Now, all this makes sense now when you remember what Chris Metzen said on BlizzCon. Throughout the World Soul Saga, we're going to cover a vast Titan conspiracy involving the various facilities, and I think we can kinda guess what is going on. I think we're going to discover that we've been essentially living inside of a Titan prison this entire time, powering it through a made-up purpose, all for the sake of converting Azeroth into one of their own. Of course, all of this is obviously catastrophically failing, as all their mechanisms had gone bad, and Zealotad is now shifting the ship and actually completing the Void conversion. To make the matter even more interesting, we've also discovered a few datamined, like dozens of datamined encrypted files, meaning we're actually going to learn something really interesting in the near future, and I think they're just going to continue down this line. Now, if you remember that logo theory that we've had since last BlizzCon, it's not only not getting debunked, but it is actually getting more evidence. We've seen that the last Titan logo looked exactly the same as the Primal Incarnate prison, like literally a copy-paste thing. Keep in mind, the Primal Incarnates are the elemental beings inside of a Titan prison. Based on the current hints, Azeroth is elemental in nature and very likely in a Titan prison. If you think about it, it all really makes sense. I mean, they would imprison Azeroth so that no one else can reach her, and then they would create a ton of fail-safe mechanisms and defenses that have been failing one by one over the many millennia. Now, with the world breaking and all, we are going to get the last mechanism that Zealotad is well aware of. What makes this even more interesting is that it raises a few more implications as well. I mean, I've talked about how the King of Diamonds was made upon, but you really just think about this. Magni is essentially an Earthen, a Titan servant that got free will and was affected by the Curse of Flesh. Why would the Prime Soul, the Prime World Soul, whisper to a Titan servant? Previously, this made sense because we thought Azeroth was a Titan, so it would whisper to the Titan servants, but literally think about it, the Titans put Azeroth inside of a prison. If the theory is true, to her, the Titans are no better than the old gods and the Void Lords, so why would she suddenly start giving hints to Titanforge servants that she would only really see as oppressors? Personally, I think Magni never really communicated with Azeroth, and if Azeroth is not nascent anything, just a Prime World Soul, she might not even have a voice, and this voice that we've heard could have been a manipulation of someone like Zealotad. Furthermore, as I stated in many videos, there was new dialogue from the late last year added to the Orc Hermit Enceladus, where he told us that we don't really know what's up with Sargeras and that we shouldn't see it as black and white. As in, Sargeras was a Titan through and through, and he just used different methods. It's possible that Sargeras wanted to destroy the Titans, believed the Prime World Soul could save them, and this is what caused the split. However, both of them couldn't care less about Azeroth or us in the long term. However, with each passing day, Blizzard is just doubling down on the Titans bad. They're not that different from Sargeras or the old gods. They're just the masters of gaslighting and sugarcoating, so you never really figure out what they had done. It's very likely that they even built the entire Shadowlands mechanism where we go in and out of the material plane to maintain the machinery, because we've learned in the Shadowlands that the Eternal Ones had very likely worked with the Titans at some point in the past. So looks like this vast Titan conspiracy really is starting to unravel. Thank you for watching. Check out why we will never defeat Zealotad by clicking on the screen, and check out my video on Perun and Slavic mythology by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time!